Won't make a ton, but I'll make some.
I would not have done that. But yeah, you know what you're doing.
I know the crowd.
Yeah,
I know the crowd that wants it.
How's it going?
Fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Pretty good, man.
All right, traders, welcome back. We are at episode 52. Everything's late. Nobody dies.
The new 52?
The new 52.
Is this a new episode?
Yeah.
And it's 52.
Yeah.
So it's the new 52.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Nice.
I hope it goes better than the last new 52, than the old 52.
I hope we have more of a longevity. They're going to be rebooting us in 6 months.
Oh, might not be a bad idea. Might not be a bad idea. George Clooney and Samuel Jackson coming in and going, hey, how you doing? Welcome to Nobody's on time and everything gets through eventually. Yeah. That's okay. Platinum Dunes will do it.
Have you seen the trailer for the new Ahsoka series?
No.
Yeah, George Clooney, Jedi.
Really?
Yeah, very cool.
Really?
He looks sharp.
Does he have a Jedi American Express?
He's up there. He's got his orange lightsaber.
Lightsabers. The chicks dig it. All right, I'll get it.
Very cool.
Oh, that's
very
awesome.
Cool stuff. So I thought we're back into summertime con season.
Mm-hmm.
Cons popping up all over the place.
Yep.
Got a couple coming up here that we're pretty excited for. FanX is in September.
Yes, Alexander Daddario will be there.
Nice.
That's who I want to meet. Right. I just want to stand 10 feet away from her and get going there and then run away. That's what's going to happen.
And we've got our press passes in for that.
Yep.
You contacted me last night. I've got on real quick. I'm like, hey, when are you going to open this up? So got my request in for press passes. So we can see if we can both be there, do some interviews, talk to some creators,
that'd be cool.
Some of the Brady Kids or whoever happens to be there.
Stormtrooper number 3. Stormtrooper number 3, Kevin Sorbo and the Soup Nazi. I'm sure they'll all be there.
Yeah. A lot of crazy stuff going on there.
No, it should be fun.
So
I'm just chilled, man. I went to Vegas for the weekend.
Nice.
And it just hit a dispensary out there, and I don't know, man. Maybe it just stayed in me. I don't know. Something happened, but boy, I'm all right.
Yeah, I think you've been to Mile High Con,
mm-hmm.
and that's kind of the mecca for comic book nerds. Head to Mile High,
but no, hardly anybody ever buys anything when they get there.
Afford anything,
yeah,
Mile High.
But it's like the Catholic mecca. It's like, oh, we got to go to the Vatican. Well, you can't buy the Vatican. You just go visit, and then you go home.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, can I have one of those statues, please?
But really, Torpedo Vegas, I think, is that level of a shot.
Yeah,
like it's an experience.
And I didn't get to go, but I did go to Omega Mart, and I was really glad that I did not have an edible before I went there, because that would have been horrible.
I'm gonna have to check
horrifying,
that out.
And it's so cool. It's really cool.
Me and the wife are heading down in a couple of weeks, and
cool.
That's something I need to check out for sure.
Nice. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really, really weird, and it's got like a whole story to it. There's literally a story. And like a weird sort of I don't know, like mythos to it, and all it's weird stuff. It's so cool though. And I went to the Monster Museum, Tonka One's Monster Museum, which was super cool. And then I won a little bit of money, and then I came back. So
yeah. Bueller harassing me. I didn't make it to Washington State. I wanted to get to Washington State SummerCon, and yes, I know we had the conversation when you were here.
Is that where Howard Chaykin was?
If Howard Chaykin were there, I probably would have went. I would have left my wife at home.
I was going to say leave Kat home. Yeah.
Or invited Bueller's mom, one or the other.
I've been seeing the con.
He did some great interviews and day out stuff at the con.
Cool.
Bob, and it was super cool. And that's one that I really want to get to is Washington State, because that's one that's very creator focused.
Yeah.
And they get wrestlers in there and actors and whatnot. But
that's not what it's about.
Right. It's about the comics.
Right.
And,
And that's nice. I really like that. And I wish we had a little bit more of that here.
Yeah. And I think that really is, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I think the con scene and like the situation with Acetate Gate last year, all of that.
Tate Gate.
That's all tied in together.
I learned in broadcasting school, definitely chew gum when you're.
But that's certainly.
No, I think it's my cool.
Yeah, in my opinion, contributed to the downfall of the comic hobby.
I mean, a lot of that stuff has definitely, because I feel like, well, it's somebody was in. Should have said it the other day, but I just got back, so it was the day before yesterday. Somebody was in Tuesday, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm new to comics. I don't know, what to do. I just want to grab a couple of books real quick." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, cool. And she's like, "What's this?" I'm like, "Oh, that's such and such, blah blah blah." And she's like, "But that's not what's on the cover."
Yeah.
She's like, "Is this an Avengers book?" I'm like, "No, that's not an Avengers book." Are they in it? No, they're not in it. It's very, it almost keeps new readers at arm's length, that kind of stuff, and then like the, Take Gate, when it was like, oh my God, what, well, am I buying something that's worthless? Am I buying something that's not real? Am I buying, you know what I mean? It worries, that kind of stuff worries a lot of people, I think, now.
Yeah.
It was kind of, in the 80s around, we're talking about the counterfeit stuff, with Turtles and Cerebus and stuff like that.
Right.
Cry for Dawn, #1, had a counterfeit. And it was, they looked okay, but they didn't look great. But, that kind of got a lot of people out of it there too, because then people were even taking those big treasury-sized famous first editions,
right,
now, and taking the exterior cover off and selling it to people as an Action Comics #1.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and the only thing you knew back then, you didn't have an internet to look stuff up on. You were just like, oh, well, yeah, Golden Age were a lot bigger. Were they that much bigger? And they're like, yeah, they were. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll take it then. Here's your $5,000 for a $10 book, whatever. I think a lot of stuff like that really, it takes people back and makes them less than eager to jump into the comic pool. And I think that might be part of why CGC had such a rise, because, everybody was like, well, if it's sealed, it's real.
Right, it gives it some legitimacy.
Yeah. And whereas, like, now it's, I've heard of more counterfeit CGC stuff than I have actual counterfeit comics.
Right.
There's like a whole ring up in the Northwest, that's been doing this stuff.
Yeah. But it's funny to me because if you watch the decline, what has chased people out of the hobby are things like the acetate cover situation.
Oh yeah.
People going to comic book conventions and not being able to purchase a comic book.
Yeah.
Because the prices are so insanely high.
Yeah.
Which is a real issue with comic book conventions. Because you go to San Diego, you cannot afford to buy comic books in San Diego.
No, you can't.
Like, you just can't.
And it's because it's so freaking expensive to get in there.
Yeah.
And this is something that I think a lot of con organizers either don't realize or don't care about. Is it's like, for me to go to a con, they're just like, oh well, yeah, give me $1,000, and set up there and then make $2,000 or make $5,000 or whatever, right? But you got to pay people to be there,
right?
You got to pay people to cover for you while you load up and get there. If it's out of town, you have to pay to transport the stuff. You have to get a U-Haul. You have to get something, right?
Right.
At least even here, like, you got to pay to park, you got to pay to eat, you got to pay to drink, you got to pay to do everything. And if you have a shop, you also have to cover all those shifts when you're not there. And, depending on how many employees you have, that could, bump somebody into overtime. And, like, it costs a lot of money. for shops to do that. And I think that con organizers really need to, maybe take a step back and realize, maybe that's why we're not filling up the spaces anymore, because we're just charging too much.
Well, I'm really seeing like 3 different levels of cons. We've got the San Diego Comic-Con and FanX and
Wizard World,
Fan
and stuff
Expo,
like that.
Wizard World.
Yeah.
And these conventions, Fan Expo actually does a really good job. They're trying to keep comic book influencers, and they're doing it in a smart way. I know that Bueller's working with, I believe it's him that he's working with, going to Dallas Fan Expo and the big one down MegaCon down in Florida is owned by them.
Is that Orlando? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But they do a lot of comic book content. So they have actors, but they're actors that have been in a comic book movie,
right,
or somewhere related in that.
Yeah.
Whereas FanX, like, it's literally the Brady Bunch kids were there. And I watched the Brady Bunch, Marsha, I'm all about it.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna end up paying like $600 to have 4 of them sign a picture.
Right.
It ain't gonna happen.
And I think there's a balance that needs to be struck there, because there's people that will show up to meet the cast of MASH. I mean, I'm one of them. I would love to meet those people, but I'm not going to pay them $50 to shake their hand. I'm just not. As much as I appreciate what they've done.
Yeah.
So that's kind of crazy, but it's unfortunate because they build these places build themselves as a comic book convention.
Right.
But our comic book creators, you have one in aisle 12, one in aisle 3, and one back behind the dumpster, and another one in the food court, and the biggest name is sitting right out in front of all the actors signing autographs.
Right. Yeah. So, well, I mean, they never put Stan Lee in anything like that. They just put him in Celebrity Row.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's kind of how they did that stuff, because to them, that he was a celebrity. Why? Right. Oh, because he was in some Marvel movies. He did cameos, so he's a celebrity.
If Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, any of those guys came to FanX, they would be right in front of the actors and actresses where they should be. They should get a spotlight. I
don't know if they would or not, though, because
they would.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, if your name's that big, you would.
Neil Adams was shoved in the back,
but
every time. And it's one of the reasons he hated being there.
One of the reasons these people don't come is, I've heard from multiple people, they get stuck. They'll separate them from the rest of the community.
Right.
So it's pointless to have,
So you have a fantasy author, you have a cosplay place, you have a scented candle booth, and then you've got Peter David.
Right.
So why?
Right.
I remember we couldn't find Peter David. Yeah. When he was there. Then once we did, it was not, the best experience. Obviously, because he was pissed, because he was shoved in the corner. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was nice to us, but he was just like, this sucks.
Well, and Peter David's a name that we know, but it's not going to be recognizable to the common person off the street.
Well,
where Jim Lee would.
But if you said Peter David, writer of Hulk, Thunderbolts, all this kind of stuff, and if you hyped it, then it would be.
It would get a lot more
attention
than what he did get, for sure.
Right.
But there are a lot, because you can say, and I go back to Jim Lee just because people would hear Jim Lee and they'd be like, I'm going to go get Jim Lee's autograph on a comic book. What did he write?
Yeah. And then they bring in a Spider-Man book and say, why is this guy crazy?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
They'd be like, oh, your dad was a great artist.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
And you get that a lot. But if it was like Todd McFarlane, everybody knows who Todd is. So they would set him up over here, and Doug Wagner's still back and surrounded by the candle people.
Right. He's gonna smell okay at the end of the day. It's just gonna be weird, Right?
And I think that's the failing of a place like FanX or.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And San Diego, places like that. For sure.
And it's like, I kind of feel like even even if you have vendors that are similar, keep them together.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, and yeah, of course they're competition, but if you've got 10 comic vendors right here, people are going to be like, oh man, let's go to the comics, and they're going to get more business, they're going to make more money, and they're probably going to want to come back next time. Yeah.
And I don't in any way want to bash on FanX. I mean, it's better than not having a convention. And I do wish that they would listen more to the local community.
Yeah,
for sure.
As do I. Yeah.
But it's hard for me to reconcile real support for them when we can't even get them to put the comic creators together.
Yeah.
In the same area.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough.
Or make it affordable for comic shops to be there.
And that's another huge issue as well, right? Because I mean, our friends from the nerd store, they go every year, but they have, in order to make it pay, I mean, they've got a pretty good sized operation to begin with and a lot of employees, but in order to make it work, they have to work straight through the weekend. There's like no breaks for those guys. Because they have to do it all themselves, and they have to get a huge piece of floor space so they can cram in as many magic cards and Funko Pops and everything else.
It's not comics. They're not making money from comics, though.
Right. And they've got cool books. I mean, they've got really cool foreign stuff and hard to find store variant stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it just makes it really difficult. Aggressively, wow, I did it again. Yeah. Aggressively relaxing says this is why everyone's talking about Heroes Con being so great. Exactly. Everyone wants to meet a Power Ranger or whatever, but comic conventions are for comics.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. So, yeah, you've got those big cons like that, and then the next step down, you've got, like I say, I think fan expos fall into this, but certainly Wasatch and Washington State SummerCon, things like that, will fall into the category where they still want to bring in the wrestlers and all these cool guests, but they want to have a focus on the comic books.
Yeah.
And they get much better creators, too.
Yeah.
I mean, Neil Adams was at Washington State. Howard Chaykin was at Washington State.
Yeah. Howard Chaykin was there. Your mom.
Howard Chaykin was there, speaking of Ask Gabe.
I know, right?
So they've got great national creators who support smaller creators.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what's important to me. Is
well,
that they support the smaller creators.
And they also support shops and local shops and things like that. Because when Neil was here for FanX one time, he came to sign here.
Right.
That was so much fun, and it was really cool. And he's like, hey, yeah, we're going over here to Blackout, blah blah blah. So I mean, how much better can you get than Neil Adams promoting your store, right?
Right.
Maybe Stanley.
I mean, well, because they understand. I mean, it was these stores that made them what they are.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Marvel movies.
They get it.
I get it. It's kind of the point. I mean, an AI can write a Marvel movie these days.
That is so true.
Probably do it a little bit better.
Wisecracking hero, animated animal, shiny thing.
Enter.
Universal threat, spaceship, alien planet. Don't make it quite the same as the comics. Okay, go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's kind of weird, and and as much as as much fun as they can still be, and as much fun as they can, still be, it's just like, well, man, there is a lot, and people are just getting fatigued.
Yeah.
And we're saying that I was listening to Sirius XM yesterday, and it was not an entertainment channel; it was like a news channel. And they were like, talking about politics and this and that, blah blah blah. And then the one guy's like, "Did you see the Flash movie?" He's like, "Yeah, no, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it." And these guys like, "Yeah, it's not." And they were kind of bad mouthing it a little bit, not bad mouthing it, but they were criticizing it validly. And and again, I haven't seen it. I'm not going to say it, but I haven't seen it. I can't say anything about it. But when they were talking about this, and one of the guys said, "Oh, what I really, really wish is when movies were talked about and promoted as art, and what does, even if it was just a stupid summer movie, and what does the director want to say with this? What is going on with this? What is the point of this movie? Are you going to go have fun? Are you going to be scared? Is it going to be, whatever?" And nobody talks about any of that anymore. They just talk about the box office.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that is it. And they're like, "Oh, okay, well, it is tracking at 45 million. Everybody's already saying Indiana Jones doesn't even come out, and everybody's calling it a failure.
Right.
They're like, "Oh, it's only tracking for 45 million in the opening weekend, and blah, blah, blah." It's like, and, I remember 45 million was a huge movie in the 80s, and even if they put 20 million into it, they'd be like, "Yes, good enough for us." But 45 million now. I mean, what is Indiana Jones going to cost? 200 million, 150 million, 200 million,
probably 200, 250, yeah.
And then you get another 100 million on top of that for 150 million for advertising.
Funny, a lot of that.
We're talking $400 or $500 million.
They're tracking that because they're not looking at making a movie. They're looking at making a franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the downfall of the MCU. Like it's created nothing but franchises.
Yeah.
If I want to watch a franchise, I'll turn on the TV.
That's what TV shows are.
Yeah.
TV shows are franchises. You get the next one next week, or now you get all 6 episodes of season 4.
Yeah.
On Thursday.
Right.
But I mean, that didn't make a lot of sense to me, because it was like, oh man, yeah, I get it now. I get it.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I understand this, and it used to be, you go there, you put out, 15 movies a year, a studio would, whatever it might be,
right,
10, 15, whatever, and they all made 20 million. You may have one that lost 5 million. They all make $20 million, right? Profits. Right? So they're like, okay, yeah, we'll do another one. Maybe we'll do another one, maybe we won't. Whatever, right? And then, but now, it's like, well, if it doesn't quadruple our money, it's a failure.
Yeah.
If we don't make obscene amounts of money, it's viewed as a failure. If we can't immediately greenlight a sequel because of all the money we made, it's viewed as a failure. It's like, just make a movie. They're paying too much for movies too.
Oh, for sure.
And there is no movie in the world that needs $300 million.
It's the bureaucracy of it. It has to be, because they're not paying people. Well, they're not paying these interns.
And they're paying the actors.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, man, does Robert Downey Jr. need another $50 million? I don't feel like he does.
Well, and that's that's a side effect of having that franchise mentality.
Yeah.
Because you hire Robert Downey Jr. for $2 million to do Iron Man, and if that takes off, by the time you're done with 8 movies, he's going to be up in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah. And you know what? And they just don't need it. I wish there was the mentality where it's like, hey, guess what? If you got, I don't know, man. You've got, you're worth $500 million. You're worth $500-600 million. Just work for scale, man.
Right.
Make the movie happen. That's why that's one thing I really liked about Tarantino movies. And those guys come in and basically work for scale.
Right.
Because they wanted to be part of what they were creating. And that, I kind of miss that.
Right. I concur. How stupid is the conversation around pop culture movies have gotten so funny? 3-hour-long shows where people argue whether or not it's good or bad, like it's a math problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about the numbers.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yep.
And I haven't really seen anything. I mean, there have been. I enjoy the movies that come out. I enjoy watching superhero movies, Ant-Man.
I mean, we all,
Shazam,
we all
and
do.
it's a lot
We
of
all
fun.
do.
But I don't enjoy it any more than I enjoy the stuff that's on TV.
Yep.
I mean, right now we're watching Pennyworth, or we just finished the 3rd season of Pennyworth, and
It's riveting. Did you ever get to see how he makes tea?
it's actually a fantastic show.
I actually heard it's pretty good.
It is really good.
Hi there. Good to see you too. Well, good to read you.
But yeah, that's a real interesting take on the Alfred Pennyworth character, and I think what I really thought was cool about it is they took Nolan's Pennyworth and Lucius Fox, who was I keep dropping the actor's name that played Alfred in those.
Michael Caine.
Yeah, Michael Caine.
No, Michael Caine. Michael Caine.
Yeah. So Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman, and just cast younger versions of them. Like it's completely believable that these are younger versions of those actors.
Cool. That's cool.
And like the cadence in their voice, the inflection, everything is just like them. So that's super cool.
Please just talk like this.
And it really seems like they got the whole idea from a couple lines that Caine had in that, talking about his military past and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I highly recommend.
And it's probably not a show for me, but I recognize that it is for some people, and some people very much like it.
A lot of dark, violent stuff.
Well, maybe it is for me.
I'm just saying, it is not what you would think. Yeah, this is not your 1970s, 1980s Alfred. He's pretty badass.
Cool.
Martha Wayne's pretty badass.
Well, yeah. Where'd you hear that name?
Martha.
All right, we're friends.
Yeah.
Wait, you watch the show about Martha too? Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's, and again, I keep saying this, the excitement of a new Marvel movie or a new DC movie or something. And it's like, look, I love lobster, but if you feed me lobster every night, eventually I'm going to be like, can I have some top ramen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I gotta, no matter how much I love it, and you gotta roll that back a little bit.
Yeah.
You can't have it every day.
I am not, there's not a Marvel project that I'm excited for at this point. Maybe if they do Ghost Rider, they've been talking about doing Ghost Rider for the Halloween thing this year, kind of in the vein of Werewolf.
Oh yeah.
Because I really like Werewolf by Night. I thought that was brilliant.
Really fun.
If they do that, something along those lines with any of the Ghost Riders, I'm in for that.
Yeah.
But none of the rest of the stuff is really interesting me. They announced the new cast for Superman, and I'm not there. And a lot of that, I'm butthurt.
Okay, then it was funny, because somebody was in yesterday and they said, "Did you see the new cast for Superman?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "So they dump Henry Cavill and hire somebody that looks just like Henry Cavill?"
It makes no sense. And I'm sure he's a fine actor. I don't really know that much about him.
Yeah, I don't know.
The girl playing Lois is, she's brilliant. She's from Miss Maisel. And,
okay, yeah.
And I love Miss Maisel. She's great in that. I don't, and I can see she probably could have pulled off Lois Lane, but I don't think the actors that are playing those parts really need to be replaced.
No, they probably don't. I mean, they could. That's the thing, is with this Flashpoint mess. Okay, they could, and they could reset everything. Just reset it.
Yeah.
But now it's looking more complicated. They had Flashpoint, so they could reset things and say, okay, fine, right? So Andy Muschietti is saying, oh, well, I'm going to do Batman Brave and the Bold now. They hired him to do that, even though this one could lose them hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, Andy Muschietti, Chapter 1 was really good. Chapter 2 was not so good.
Not as good.
And not great. It had some fun parts, but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
And then people I've talked to, there have been a couple of people that have liked the Flash movie, but the vast majority of people I've talked to have not liked it. They thought, oh yeah, Michael Keaton was great, but I don't know why I paid $15 to go and see Michael Keaton for 10 or 15 minutes. What's up?
I said a family body. Come by.
I don't know. I was doing this. Maybe they did. Yeah. So I don't know. They could have just done everything really, because now, now they've got the Flash thing, which is all over the place, right? They've got the director of the Flash that said he's going to use Ezra Miller again.
Really? I did.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And he said he was they were an amazing actor.
I am certainly out on that.
Yeah, I mean, and Andy Muschietti said, yeah, if I do it in a movie and it has Flash in it, it's going to be Ezra Miller, because they're amazing and they just capture this character and they're so good. I'm like, no, they did not capture that character.
No,
not at all.
I don't get Flash vibes from him at all.
No, and also Barry Allen is a scientist, and Ezra Miller's character is stupid. Yeah. Stupid.
I mean, I've got the same
Whoa,
problem.
is that a toilet? What are you doing here? It's like, geez.
I got the same problem with Ant-Man. Yeah. I mean, and I know that there's a difference between Henry Pym and Scott Lang. I get it. I wanted Henry Pym Ant-Man.
I think there was too much baggage with Hank Pym.
Probably.
Yeah, then, when Scott Lang, everybody wants to know about him now. Hank Pym, and they're like, hey, this is crazy, man. What's going on? When are they gonna, let's go and get some old Ant-Man stuff and see what that's like. How come he dressed like Yellow Jacket and beat his wife up, and then he went to prison, and then he just betrayed the Avengers, and then he went to prison again, and then he went to court, and then he went, and I'm like, why does he have mental illness? Oh, that may not be who they want their hero to be associated with.
I mean, they did it.
But then again, Ezra Miller played Flash, so yeah,
that's true.
Same deal.
But Iron Man, not a raging alcoholic in the movies.
No,
Man, party boy, but not a raging alcoholic.
Yeah, and he's had his issues in the comics as well. But the alcoholism was pretty quick in the comics. And it was 7 or 8 issues. At most, really intensive.
Right.
Alcoholism stuff, and it was like, oh man, well, I lost everything to a video state. I sure learned.
It feels like it was so much longer than that.
I know.
When we were reading them at the time, you only had one a month.
Yeah,
so,
right.
There is that. Didn't we just do this with the Flash? You have a very popular Flash on TV show, but make the movie about someone else. Now we're canceling Superman and Lois, instead of leaning into HBO money with it. I agree completely.
The only 2 words that don't go together there are HBO money, because they don't have any. but
they could.
Do agree. They could.
I mean, they've got the DC
if they were smart,
universe.
If they were smart, they could. And it all goes back to what I said, a couple of shows ago, or last time, or I don't know, whenever it was. I don't know. I guess that time is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But it all goes back to what I said, and I think that Marvel should have one movie in May, coincide with Free Comic Day, and then they get a Marvel Universe type TV show in the fall, and then DC puts a movie out, in midsummer, so it's not too close to Marvel stuff, and then they put an HBO series out in the fall.
Yeah,
a DC centered HBO series out there. And there's just no need to do all this.
I mean, they could do a connected universe on TV and have just completely standalone movies. Have the Batman over here. Have the Joker over here.
Right, yeah.
Do that type of thing.
But
trying to make it all connect, and that's where, in my opinion, that's where Marvel really fell. It's because they made these movies, and in order to see what's going on, now you need to subscribe to Disney Plus so you can watch the 8-episode show that's coming out.
Yeah.
That's going to then show you what's going to happen in the next movie, and trying to interconnect it all with.
And I think they should be the same actors.
Yeah.
And they should just be standalone movies.
But there's no payoff. There's no payoff in a Marvel movie.
That's true.
Like, there's no, like, the days of a 3-act anything going on. Even in Star Wars, every single one of the original trilogy had 3 acts.
Yeah.
And then combined, they created a single 3-act story.
Yeah.
And he carried that on into the prequels, and his outline would have carried that on into the sequels before Kathleen Kennedy got a hold of it.
Thank God he didn't. But anyway, that's that's neither here nor there. But and it's kind of like movies, TV, comics, things like that now are very much like being addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol, addicted to whatever. Because you're like, man, I'm going to get to the end of this. I'm going to get through this. I feel really good right now, and this is great. And then you start to come down. It's like, oh, there's another one. Oh, I got to go get another one.
Right.
I got to go get another one now, man. It's just a lead up to something else, and you're like, man, that is going to get me. That next one's going to get me. That's going to make me happy.
Yeah.
And then that's a lead up to something else.
Well, yeah, there's no payoffs in comics anymore.
No, there's not. That's why I'm really liking like miniseries and stuff.
Like, I like the writing and the art that's going on in Daredevil, but I have no idea what's going on with Elektra and Daredevil in and out of jail. Like, I don't know. None of it's making sense because they keep teasing that they're going to, wrap it up, but they never do. And then you think, oh, this is it. They've got to wrap it up because they're ending the run. They didn't wrap anything up.
No, they ended the run. It just, went into 2 different miniseries and then a new ongoing.
Yeah.
And I had somebody come in not long ago that said they read Daredevil #1 and they thought it sucked. So I was like, really? But what about all the, and they're like, what do you mean? That's the first one I read. #1 of the new series came out.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, look, it's a new #1. Pick it up. But it was like number 43 after you get Devil's Reign and The Woman Without Fear and all that kind of stuff. And, it was just number 43 or 44 or 45 or whatever. And it's pushing people away from trying this stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
It's too complicated. It's too interconnected.
And that's why the comic collectors, the comic readers, are picking up indie series, short run series.
Yeah.
Like, we're on volume 3 of Red Room.
Yeah.
Right now. I just saw that over there today. They're talking
it's really messy and it's so much fun.
They're talking about another Stray Dogs.
I don't think they should do that though.
Oh, another Stray Dogs?
No.
I don't know.
No, man. They've told their story. They need to let that lie. Sorry, no pun intended. They need to let Stray Dogs lie. Yeah.
Even if you look at some of the longer runs, they knew when to stop The Walking Dead, and now you've got a new Walking Dead series in the works. I don't, but at least they're wrapping stuff up. Something's killing the children. It might be an ongoing, but they wrap up their storylines and then move on to the next one.
Yeah. And that's good. And I miss that. The stuff I miss is just, when I was a kid, picking up a Spider-Man comic. You pick up Spider-Man 172, sit down and read it.
Yeah, most books back then, especially your major titles, would do three issue arcs. And so there's your 3 acts there. And they would tie up whatever that storyline is. For the next 3 issues, we're going to fight Dr. Doom. Boom, boom, boom. Right. That's done. Now for the next 3 issues, we're going to fight Kane. But what happened in the fight with Dr. Doom may affect it, but it's not part of the story.
Yeah, right.
And I do miss
and
that.
And even if it did, affect it, you've got Reed Richards on the first, page that written by Stan Lee or Roy Thomas or somebody else like that,
Right.
And they're like, wow, what a crazy adventure we have just been on. Here I am in the laboratory just tying up some loose ends from our fight with Dr. Doom. It's sure a good thing we got out of Latveria, okay. Oh, look, it's Ben Grimm coming from the other room. And then they just start a new adventure. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's exposition, yeah, but still.
Oh, Stray Cats. That's stray cats is what's happening.
Oh God, oh,
Do a power bomb.
I can't. I'm old.
I think that is one of the most underrated books of the last year.
Okay. How was that? Was that good?
For sure.
I didn't read that, but
it was pretty cool.
Yeah. As as long as it's anthropomorphic backwards with stray cats, if it's cats as people that are keeping, like it's anthropomorphic cats that are keeping the band Stray Cats in the house, but like Brian Setzer and all those guys are very small.
I'm just saying, as long as it
like
doesn't,
reverse cats.
As long as it doesn't have James Corden and Taylor Swift, we're good. Good.
Taylor Swift and her mysteriously changing breast size. She comes down from that thing. She's
I've
like,
never seen it.
Oh my God, it is so funny.
I don't want to see it.
It is so funny, man. But it's like, it's right on that edge of unwatchable and so bad that it's good. And when you see Ian McKellen, who is a Shakespearean trained Oscar-winning actor, and he's in cat makeup, and he has a bowl, and he's drinking milk, he's going, and they're like, dude, you better put that bowl down because you are not going to be able to hold your Oscar, and if you can't, they should take it away from you because of this.
Yeah, I can't watch that.
It is so bad and so funny. It's so good. Sometimes cats are this big. Sometimes cats are this big. Sometimes they have forks, and the forks are like almost as big as the cats, which means the cats would be like this big, like in real life, because they're holding these huge forks. And then like the scale is so messed up, man. And then another time they're getting up to the sidewalk and they have to walk over the curb, and if they look like they're like the size of a cat, and then they go in someplace else and the step is like 20 feet tall, and it's so terrible. So much money wasted on that, and oh God, I bought it. But then again, I own that and Troll 2 and Birdemic, so what do you want, But anyway, that's amazing. It's
crazy stuff.
And see, that's a great, fun movie for all the wrong reasons.
There's a few of those out there. And what I don't understand, talking about superhero movies, I don't understand why we can't get Corman's Fantastic Four. Why we can't get Batgirl. Like, I know that these movies, it seems a shame to lock them away.
Well, it's legal stuff, and because they take a tax write-off on it, they can't release it later,
right?
And so we're not going to see Batgirl, and we might see, somebody will leak it to YouTube one day.
I've been waiting. I've been hoping.
And we're never going to get an actual release of Corman's Fantastic Four, because the only reason they made it was to keep the rights and take a loss.
At some point, the statute of limitations has got to run out on that stuff, and they got to make it available.
You would think, but you'd think that sex tape of Abraham Lincoln never came out. It's a silent film. It's really bizarre. Yeah. He keeps his hat on, which is strange. Anyway, no, I would, and I have seen the Corman one. I'm sure you've seen it.
Oh, it was great.
It was really bad, but really great.
Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, the cartoon Johnny Storm, like literally cartoon. Yeah. It's just oh my God, yeah, so bad.
But that I just love that cheesy stuff. Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh man, and there's that's going there too, right? But there's one time where you see the thing and like his pants are split, like his costume's split. It's really funny, man. It's so funny. It's not great, but it's so Corman, and I love Corman stuff. It's so low budget, so crappy. Do yourself a favor, man. Have a drink. Watch Carnosaur if you've never seen it.
Oh, I love Carnosaur.
Oh, well, there you go.
Oh, my Lord. Huh? That's a brilliant movie.
Yes, it's the non-thinking man's Jurassic Park.
Filmmaking that is the best.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it's so great. He was... Corman was Asylum before Asylum was Asylum.
Yeah.
It's great.
So, and then going back to the topic I was talking about, the third type of Comic-Con that I was thinking
that's
of.
what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Or the ComicCons.
And it's funny because that's where I got my copy of Fantastic Four. A gymnasium con. Where somebody rents out a gymnasium at the local rec center or a summertime junior high, and then they just have a bunch of people set up comic book booths, and people, like Michael Lovin's in there trying to sell his grassroots comic book.
Yeah.
I think those are the best.
Those are fun. Yeah, and those are fun, and I haven't been to one of those for a long time. When I went to, it was Pittsburgh Comic-Con in Monroeville. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to capture your soul, viewers. I was just yeah, I went to the Pittsburgh Con. It was small, but it was really cool. And it was really fun. They had just like a room, it was like adjacent to a hotel, and it was a tiny little place. They had a room in there where they just had people with comics, selling comics. That was fun. They had a couple small publishers. And then they had some, like Chad Harden was there. That's where I met her Trippy. A lot of people were there, just kind of, like, man, we live somewhere around here. We'll come down.
Nice.
And it was really fun. It was really neat. It was small, but it's like you were able to. Mike Rell was there. You were able to talk to people for a minute, and that was something really cool that I think we've lost with the big cons.
Yeah,
you can't talk to anybody. You can't be like, hey, let me pick your brain about this. And Bjorn, I'm sorry, man, but the last time I did that was with Howard Chaykin in Baltimore. It really was. It was in Baltimore, and I was talking to Howard Chaykin about the Star Wars stuff, in the 70s. And then somebody smoked weed by the fire alarm, and there's a smoke alarm, and then we all had to go home because they thought there was a fire. So they evacuated the convention hall.
I mean, and we've got some cool stuff coming up. I mean, FanX is not going to be, by any means, be a bust. Hopefully we'll be there and be able to talk to, Doug Wagner will be there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what other comics.
Chris, will you be there?
I'm sure Chris will be there.
Chris, are you going to be there? We're not signing off, man. We're not finishing this.
We'll have a lot of local creators there, and we'll be able to sit down and do some interviews with them, and that'll be really cool.
There you go. Yeah, some panels.
Oh,
yeah,
right on. So yeah, Utah's own Chris Hoffman be there on panels.
I really thought this is like, Chris hasn't even read Do a Powerbomb. This is just what he does. He jumps in discussions and just goes, do a powerbomb. That's what
he was requesting.
It's like a photobomb. But he calls it a powerbomb, and then he just disappears. Nobody ever sees it.
Yeah. So that's cool. Wasatch this year they're going to do that again, which I like the way they do that. It's free for the collectors. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we want to set up booths, we'll have to pay to get a booth or whatever. Yeah. And the money goes to charity, so that's cool.
And anytime you get a con, it's free for mall walkers. I think it's a good idea. Yeah. You don't want to. There's old people in there getting their exercise.
Well,
you can't charge.
What I think is cool is the way they have that whole section off for the artists and all that. So that's an actual con environment.
Oh, like the little room in there. Yeah.
And you have to be allowed to go back in there.
Right. Yeah.
But it's still free. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. But they'll have one or two bigger names charging $5 for an autograph maybe or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're big enough names that they're going to bring a draw in, and then you see a lot of the local guys.
Yeah.
And they're like, go check out what Chris Hoffman's doing over there, or Doug Wagner's doing over there.
Oh, so apparently Doug and Chris are Cat's two favorite guys.
Oh, outstanding. Howard Chaykin talking about Star Wars is hilarious. Pulls no punches.
Yes.
Wish Marvel would offer him new work on new Star Wars.
That is so true. That's so true. But I know what he wants to work on, and it ain't Star Wars.
All right. So,
Yeah.
in the end, cons are a blast. I
Find the one that works for you and go and have fun.
Yeah.
And if you want to meet actors and novelists and fantasy authors and stuff, go to FanX.
Oh, and
like
I met a fantasy author there, and I read her stuff, and it is just phenomenal. And then our own, I don't
Don Osmond.
No, Cade, Stanley Bostwick.
Okay.
So the Bostwick boys from Bleakhaven, their brother wrote a kind of a young adult fantasy book.
Oh yeah,
super cool. Did a really good job on it. I enjoyed it. The daughters enjoyed it.
Also, the Bostwick Boys was a great cop show from the 80s. Place on the banks of Baltimore.
Yeah, starring Barry.
Yes, it's
Barry
fantastic.
Bostwick.
Yes, Barry Bostwick was their dad.
So
yeah, that's what my BB. It was fun.
So yeah, there's cool stuff at every con. Find the one that works for you. So,
yeah, there you go.
All right. So we're going to wrap this up. Kind of gone just a little bit over. Make sure you tune in every Thursday.
We don't typically do that.
Yeah. Make sure you tune in every Thursday. We come to you here live from Black Cat Comics in Salt Lake.
That's correct.
Where you are having a 50% off flash sale not related to the movie in any way.
That is correct. That is correct.
50% off of...
I'm sure I made at least 3 people mad by saying I thought flash sale was what DC was going to do when after the box office results came in.
Right.
That's okay. So, 50% off all graphic novels, June 30th through July 8th.
Right on.
So, yeah, a little over a week. And we've gotten so many collections in, and I don't know why, but a ton of them have gotten trade paperbacks and hardcovers in, like a bunch.
So come get your trade paperbacks and your hardcovers, collected volumes, so you can read your stories.
Yeah.
Read your stories.
Come and read your stories.
All right.
There we go.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell so you'll be notified whenever we drop a new show. See you later, traders. Bye.
See.